Welcome back. I'm Curt with Senox. Today we're going to talk about costing a job out and some of the things you need to be aware of. So what I've got here is just a pretty generic job estimating form. I want to go over with you some of the things that are important to have on your own estimating form. And we do have the version of this in PDF available if you want to use this as a starting point for your own estimating form. Of course, you always need the name and the address of who the customer is, gutter color, what size gutter it may be, downspout color, because it could be different. You also want to have an indication on there whether it's a straight fascia or a slanted fascia, so you know if you're going to need gutter bumpers or if you can just go with regular hangers. It's important to know what kind of roof's on it, because that's going to determine your screen. If you're putting screen on it, it could affect that. So it's important to put all this stuff on there. We want to know if it's 1, 2, or 3 stories, so we know to show up at the job site with the right type of ladders. Are we taking the old gutter off? We need to be aware of that, because if we are showing up, how are we going to haul the material out? Do we have enough room? Et cetera, et cetera. So I've got a pretty generic drawing here, and we've got some symbols on here for whether it's a downspout or splash guard, and you can use whatever symbols work for you and your company. This is just an example and a starting point. So what I've got here is I've got one piece here, and this is over a garage, so it's end cap to end cap. It's 53 foot long, and you notice I'm using 2E because I'm using round downspouts on this instead of a rectangular like a 2x3 or 3x4. In those instances, if I was using, for example, a 3x4 on this, I would write, put an X where my downspout goes, and then I would have indications of like AAA or AAB on the combination of elbows needed for each spout. This particular example, since we're using 4-inch round and we can use those elbows to turn them any direction, I'm just going with the 2E and 1 2-inch offset. Then we've got the front here. It's again end cap to end cap. You notice I've got 2 lines drawn in it. These lines are going to be splash guards, so inline diverters essentially. We make them out of the same material that we make our valley shields out of. We had a earlier video where we demonstrated how to do that, but instead of cutting it and bending it, we're just going to put it up there straight. So this one's 82 foot, end cap to end cap. These are just a downspout on each side, and with 3 elbows, as you can see I've got indicated here. On the back side, we've got another end cap to end cap with 1 downspout on it and 3 elbows. And then we've got a little L section back here that in fact does have a 1-inch or inside valley on it. So we have to make a valley shield for that. You can see I've got 3 elbows over here and a downspout. Here I've got 2 elbows and 1 2-inch offset. So we've kind of got an idea of what we're doing here. So we've got essentially, we need to have at least 6 extra foot on this job to make our valley shields and our inline diverters. We're also going to install step lock screen on this. This house has a metal roof, so we need to use step lock versus roll lock because we cannot go underneath the shingles. So this adds up to about 249 actual footage of gutter material. Now I always like to get a little bit extra to account for my valley shields, and there's always going to be a little bit of waste in there. So I'm going to order 260 feet worth of gutter. I'm going to have 4 and 4 on the end caps, 6 downspouts, 6 outlets. I'm going to have 2 2-inch offsets. I'm going to have 1 inside miter, and I'm going to use 125 hangers on this. I've got 3 diverters on there, so with the 260, and I only actually have 250 foot of gutter, I do have the extra 6 foot to make that on. It gives me 4 foot to spare that I can make my downspout straps with, or just have a little extra just in case. So every time you have an inside miter, you need to make sure you include an extra 2 foot on the metal. Now, let's say I had an outside miter. Let's say, for example, here. Well, I'm actually going to lose 1 foot of gutter material on this miter if I make this, because when we measure a house, we're measuring from fascia edge to fascia edge. So if we're doing an outside miter, the gutter's actually going to, on a 6-inch, it's actually going to stick out 6 inches past this direction and 6 inches past this direction so that we can make that outside corner. So that's an additional foot that aren't in our measurement. So you need to be mindful of that. Another thing you need to be aware of when you're going to the job is the elevation. Okay, is this a grade level slab? Now what I mean by that is, do you not see a bunch of concrete above the grass around the house or the landscaping around it? If so, then that's a grade level slab with 8-foot walls. Now, say for example, you've got a house that's built on the side of a hill, so it's level in the front with the yard, but the back you've got 3 or 4 foot of concrete where the slab is that they had to pour level so that the house would set level. Well, we need to be mindful of that because we're going to need more than 1 downspout when we get into those scenarios. So we need to be aware of the grade that we're dealing with. So this is just my basic drawing here. Now I want to get into costing this and how I would sell this job. Again, we're dealing with a metal roof. This is a grade level house, so I can use 6-foot extension ladders on the whole, or step ladders on the whole job. So nothing too technical on that. I am putting a screen on it, and I am using round downspouts. That's the only added cost on it. Now, that's going to take more time. So be aware of that when you're costing this out. So here's my quote on my material. So a material quote, as you can see, I'm going to come up to $1,330.39 my material cost for everything that I need on this job to do this. I've got rivets included in this, so I've got my sealant, my hangers, and everything else included in this. I just know that. So when I price out gutter, I sell it by the foot, and I sell my pieces individually because it all varies. So here's what I would suggest in this particular scenario, what I'm going to sell this gutter for. I'm going to sell 6-inch gutter at 260 feet at $8 per foot. That puts me at $2,080 for just the gutter. Now that includes the hangers, the outlets, or the hangers and the sealant that goes with that. Now my strip miters, I charge $25 for every 6-inch strip miter. Now you're going to have a different charge on your 5-inch. You're going to have a different charge on your 6-inch or your 6-inch half round or 7-inch or even box cutter. Different charges on all those, and you as the business owner need to figure out the numbers that work for you. This is just an example to help you understand how to go about this process. My valley shields and diverters, I charge $25 a piece. Now, I've got 3 of them. I've got a valley shield here, and I've got 2 inline diverters here. There's actually a hip ridge roof right here, so I've got water coming down. I want to make sure that we can capture that and keep it from shooting over. So end caps, I've got a total of 8. I charge $6 per end cap to be installed. Downspouts, I got a total of 6. These are round downspouts. So I charge $130 per downspout. That cost includes the outlets for the downspout, 1 10-foot downspout, and 3 elbows. And I'm a big fan of that because we don't sell downspouts by the foot. Some guys like to sell their downspouts by the foot. I think that skews your profit margins when you do that because, again, we don't sell them by the foot. You're either going to have to buy them an 8-foot or 10-foot from us. So to me, if you've got to buy that, your customer should pay for the whole thing. Now my step block, I sell it for $5.75 a foot. That includes the cost of my material and the labor to get it on there. Now let's go on down to the labor cost. Now again, these are examples. I'm a proponent of paying installers by the foot. Some guys like to pay a percentage of the job, so some people even pay hourly. I like either the percentage or the by foot because it inspires your employees to be efficient and effective on the job. The more gutter they get put up in a day, the more they make. So you are not pigeonholing them on the amount of money they can make each week. It's up to them. So it helps them become more efficient and makes them want to do things the correct way. Now, so I'm paying my guys $1.50 per foot, 260 foot. That gives me $390. I'm paying them to put it on the house. For each miter, I pay them $5 to install each strip miter. So we got one of those end caps. I give them 75 cents a piece to crimp the end cap on and seal it. So that's $6 total there. Diverters and valley shield, I give them $5 a piece to make and install those. So get a total of 15 there. Their downspouts, I pay them $20 a piece to build the downspout and install it on the house. So $120 charge there is what I'm going to pay them. Screen, I pay them $1 a foot, particularly with the step lock because they don't have to fasten it, spring tension held in. So that gives me a total labor cost of $796. Now, if we did the percentages and I paid them 18%, they'd be at $810, so we're not too far off there. If we did 20%, we'd be paying them $900 of labor. The reason I'm not a big fan of the percentages is particularly in these last few years where we've seen the prices skyrocket. So every time you get a price increase, if you're using the percentages, your installers get a raise. Now, I'm all for paying these guys a great wage and keeping them happy, but this is affecting your bottom line when you do that. The other downside is that say you have a combination of work that's both, say, builder and residential homeowners. So you could have the exact same floor plan in 2 different homes, builder A here, homeowner B here, same floor plan, same amount of gutters, same downspout, same everything, but you give your builder a better price so your installers make this price, this amount if they're doing a percentage. Now you go do the exact same house the next day and you're charging your homeowners more because you want to get your more margins out of your homeowners. So now they got a raise for doing the exact same work. So to me, if you can cost your stuff out in a per foot price and pay your employees that way, it makes it a little easier to know what your bottom line is every time you're actually selling that job. So that kind of gives you a synopsis of figuring out our job costs. Now there's a lot more in job costs that we haven't covered. We're going to have a second video on that soon where we're going to get into your daily costs that you really need to take into account for your general liability. If you pay a payroll and you're taking taxes out, then you're looking at workman's comp taxes. We're going to go in and break down a lot of those things and look at what we think we need to charge per day to cover those additional expenses. But for right now, we're looking at a basic job estimate. We got our material costs, we got our labor costs. So our total cost for this job of labor and materials is $2,026.39. We're going to sell this at $4,503. Now this will probably take the better part of a day to do this job for my guys. So at the end of the day, I'm making a little bit over 50% margins on this job. That seems like a lot, that there's a $2,000 profit in a day, but we're going to have the second video to follow up on this and all these additional costs that we're not thinking about right here that we need to be mindful when we're pricing our stuff, because whether you're thinking about it or not, these costs, additional costs, are real. Thanks. Have a great day.